could have polluted the entire Earth.
The anger of the Om reflects the anger of the Earth. The Earth knows it's wrong for us to survive.
You now live at the edge of the jungle.
All right, everybody, welcome back to YS Channel. I'm your home for movie reviews, blockbuster, obscure, and cult classics. Speaking of cult classics, today we're going to review a movie from Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, however you wish you pronounce it, directed by the famous Hayao Miyazaki, and the movie is Nausicaä Valley of the Wind.
Yes, Nausicaä Valley of the Wind is the movie that paved the way for Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, how you pronounce it, to become a full-fledged anime studio in Japan. Before that happened, it was actually a manga that film director Hayao Miyazaki created and decided to turn.
Castle in the Sky is the first true Studio Ghibli movie. However, Nausicaä Valley of the Wind is the definitive precursor to it. Like all the elements, style, and all that. You know, Miyazaki's presence, all that's there. It's a Studio Ghibli movie without it being a Studio Ghibli movie. Before that, you know, he directed Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, which is the movie we did our previous review on. And it's considered an anime masterpiece by many. And then Miyazaki himself was a director for various other anime projects, you know, prior to that. And then, as I already said, this movie would eventually allow the actual formation of Studio Ghibli, and then they would create Castle in the Sky. But we're just going to dive into Nausicaä Valley of the Wind because it's a pretty fucking good movie.
As I said before, Nausicaä was a manga before it became a movie. In fact, the movie only covers maybe the first volume or two out of the manga that was ongoing at the time. Like, the manga started in, I think it was 82 or 83, and ended in the early 90s. So there's many more adventures of Nausicaä that have yet to be told on film.
So, as you were already touching upon, Studio Ghibli movies are well known for attention to detail, fluid, and just like lively, vivid animation. I mean, outside of Disney, you know, you could argue that they were the best animation film studio out there, outside of Disney for sure. And then, speaking of production values or production issues, a lot of anime movies of this time period from the 1980s. In fact, this movie was released in 1984. They were plagued with all kinds of just low budget, you know, production related issues. Low budget, you know, which would lead to a lot of it being outsourced in places like Korea, Vietnam, the Philippines. So the animation gets outsourced. Quality tends to go down, especially if it's on a tight budget, or a tight timeline. So it's rushed, it's under budget. So quarters do get cut. You know, so, and then even the early Studio Ghibli movies fall victim to that to an extent, although their quality exceeds that of many other anime studios like Toho Studios or Toei. I should say, not Toho, Toei. You know, especially if they keep just pumping out movie like every 2 weeks or something. Like, come on. Now, with that said, a lot of anime classics have come out during this time period as well. You know, you had the Macross movie, Do You Remember Love, which is pretty good. Although, again, it has some of those issues we're talking about. There were some Gundam movies and OVAs. The Dragon Ball franchise had its... I don't want to call them movies, but they're called movies. I mean, all those were popular, and a lot of them are well loved, right? And into the later 80s, like Demon City, Shinjuku, and all that stuff. I mean, there's a shitload more that, you know, they'll come to mind later. This is the one out there called like the Bubblegum Crisis, but we're straying too far from the point here. With Nausicaä, again, under Miyazaki's direction, of course, a lot of these issues are minimized, and you get one of their most lively movies. And it's an impressive one to watch. You know, even if you don't fully like grasp what's going on, the way this movie is made, right? You know, when I first saw it, I never knew it was based off of a manga. I was able to watch it and kind of just sink right in, right?
Yeah.
So, whereas other movies that are based off manga or anime, you kind of have to know the story to actually get into it, or to have any idea what the fuck is going on. Like the Fist of the North Star movie from like 1986. Well, I mean, it's a badass movie. I have no idea what the fuck is going on half the time. Like, it jumps around. Like, most of it, like, if you're familiar with the whole story, it makes a lot more sense. Whereas this one, you know, this takes place, like, in a post-apocalyptic world where, like, civilization is destroyed. And now you have, like, these toxic environments scattered around the world, right? And you have all these super, like, destructive poisonous bugs that swarm around. And of course, the leading character, which is Nausicaä, right? She explores and communicates, you know, and she's like the ray of hope or ray of sunshine that kind of breaks apart like the bleak existence of this world. And she's a bit of a badass too. You know, she's not afraid to get her hands dirty, especially when she's defending like her kingdom or her village, right? So Miyazaki's movies and usually feature like a strong heroine type character. You know, you don't really get a whole lot of those damsel, like the stereotype damsel in distress, or like the over like hyperly sexualized female characters like a lot of anime movies are well known for. Most of his movies features a very developed like narrative with usually a strong female lead. There are exceptions to that, or they have strong female characters. Manga behind this movie.
Yes, as I said before, the manga behind Nausicaä Valley to Win was created in the early 80s. In fact, it was actually Hayao Miyazaki's way of actually getting Nausicaä turned into a film, because the concept of Nausicaä where she battles poisonous insects, studies a forest made of fungus and poisonous gases and all this other stuff. Just didn't resonate with toy animation. Animation to make it into a full-fledged anime movie at the time. So they made Nausicaä into a manga force, and then was made into a movie later, which was actually produced by Toei Animation. But years later, it would be claimed by Studio Ghibli as their first Ghibli film. But the manga itself is very how do I describe it? Very lengthy and it goes beyond what the movie covers. Because the movie that the manga is based on covers maybe the first volume or two in the series. But throughout the course of the manga, Nausicaä explores the forest, the poisonous toxic forest even more. She finds one of those giant warrior robots, whatever they're called, and it actually gives them commands. And then she finds people who actually have been living in the forest forests who have grown accustomed to it, and they actually tell her that the forest is actually cleansing the world, and Nausicaä confirms this in the manga. Like, it's actually explored a little bit in the movie itself, but it goes into more detail in the manga. And then the manga itself concludes with Nausicaä destroying the ancient crypts that actually contain like the genomes of the humans that live on the Earth. Or apparently they were genetically modified to survive the toxic environment that they live in. And Nausicaä uses the giant warrior to apparently destroy the crypts, but at the same time, it ends on a very cryptic message, which states that that everything in there must live as well. But I haven't read the manga. This is basically what I could find online. But the manga itself lasted from the early '80s to the early '90s and '90s, and it was eventually published in the United States. But here's something else about the movie. It was actually released in the United States as Warriors of the Wind, and that edit of the movie is completely different from what's actually available today, because they chose to edit out certain scenes in Warriors of the Wind to speed up the movie, to make the movie dumber for American audiences. Mm-hmm. Audiences and whatnot, and actually remove most of Joe Hishashi's music, which actually helps you resonate with the emotions in the movie. Like they tried to make this a generic cartoon movie for the time, and when Hayao Miyazaki found out about this, he was pissed off to the point when what's that movie called? The one with the giant wolves.
Totoro.
And Totoro. Princess.
Princess Mononoke.
Princess Mononoke. The Weinstein Company wanted to cut that movie. Hayao Miyazaki actually sent a samurai sword to the Weinstein brothers, saying no cuts. And apparently they left the movie untouched based off that gift they received. And then in the early 2000s, all the Studio Ghibli movies made up to that point were redubbed properly in English by Disney and given a proper release on home video. And that's how Nausicaä became properly known to everyone else in the United States, following the success of Spirited Away, which won the Academy Award for Best Anime Movie in 2001, 2002.
Yeah. For anyone unfamiliar, Spirited Away is considered by many to be like the magnum opus of Miyazaki's career. That one's a must-watch. This movie, Nausicaä Valley of the Wind, is a fun watch. I won't say it's a must-watch, because there's just better movies in the Ghibli lineup. But it's a good one. It's a fun one. So I guess a quick spoiler summary of the movie, even though it's like 40, 50 years old at this point. As already we're discussing, Princess Nausicaä, she's pretty much a badass heroine. But, she's portrayed in this movie more as a pacifist who's reluctant to fight, but she is a skilled and capable warrior. And then this movie is set like 1,000 years in the future, in the post-apocalyptic Earth, right? Apparently there's been major wars, blah blah blah. Now most of humanity is divided between two warring nations, and she's trying to prevent them from destroying what's left of human civilization and Earth's resources. So some of the themes expressed in this movie is environmentalism, because you got toxic forests and valleys, and pollution and war and devastation, and how that's like impacting humanity. in negative ways, which that's a serious, I guess, plot point to the movie. And of course, the aftermath of like unavoidable conflicts, right? And then the reason why they exist, and just how ruthless human nature can really be. But on the flip side, Nausicaä represents the opposite of that. She's supposed to be like, again, like that ray of hope. She's like the one that can bring peace and stability, love and joy, all into like a war-torn society. But with that said, the visuals through this movie are pretty damn stunning. You got those giant insect monsters, robots, right? Flying contraptions. Miyazaki loves animating flying machines and airplanes and shit. Yeah. I think he has a lot of fun doing that. But this environment, that's pretty goddamn dangerous. She has to navigate through it in order to keep her people safe, right? That's the basic generic plot summary without like giving way too many of the details. The only one I'll probably just divulge here is that the event that pretty much destroys the Earth is called the 7 Days of Fire. And that's pretty much what sets the tone for the doomsday scenario that destroyed much of the Earth. And again, with all that out of the way, there's other interesting characters that are portrayed in this movie. It's a definite for sure fun watch. I would recommend it, especially if you're like a fan of Miyazaki's work and the Studio Ghibli lineup. If you haven't seen this movie, you probably should. Like whereas you like anime or animated movies, I would strongly recommend you watch this one. It's my own personal favorites in the Studio Ghibli lineup. Some people would like to loop in the third, the Castle of Cagliostro, even though it's definitely not a Studio Ghibli movie. Although, like a lot of the elements that make up why that movie is so memorable are present in later works. It's, some people lump it in there, some people don't. I mean, again, Spirited Away, you gotta watch that. Howl's Moving Castle, it's pretty goddamn good. Princess Mononoke, I mean, you gotta see that for sure, right? And then my family, my daughter, she likes Kiki's Delivery Service. That's a good, fun one. And of course, My Neighbor Totoro. Like that one, I think people should see. And then Graveyard of the Fireflies. I mean, that one's gonna hit you in the feels, for sure. But with all that said, this is still a pretty goddamn good movie. There's really very little to nitpick or hate on, other than I guess the subject matter and the way it's portrayed. It's not for everybody. But other than that, anything else you want to add to this?
I was gonna add on to the subject matter of the film. Like, it's not like we said, it's not for everyone. Like, the movie is a very since it's a very clear environmental message, and
it's like an anti-war message as well.
That too, but like the movie's environmental message is very strong. So like, if you're one of those people who doesn't give a shit about the environment, this movie is not for you. I think the movie's message about the environment and war resonates even today. Given what's going on, and I think Nausicaä with parental guidance is a good family film. It's a mature family film for certain. Like I put it up there with Land Before Time in terms of maturity maturity level. Not because it's for adult content, just because there's elements and themes in the movie that kids are not going to fully understand, or kids are going to get really upset over. And Nausicaä has many of those themes.
Yeah, I'll agree. I mean, it's not a kids movie. You know, it's not like Care Bears, the Care Bears Magic Adventure. You know, that's a fucking kids movie. You know, this is not a kids movie. It's like the best in between a kids and an adult movie. Because I mean, there's nothing in there that's super graphic to where a kid can't watch it. But yeah, a lot of the themes and undertones and even the characters and stuff, little kids might have a hard time resonating with. And you know, because again, it is presented. You know, I mean, Miyazaki's work is pretty damn mature. Or at least it's presented mostly in a mature manner. So you know, he's not making fucking content for Sesame Street or whatever. So, it's definitely meant for an older audience, that's for sure. But with that said, it's a great movie. And then if you like our discussion or review, drop a like, follow, subscribe. We always greatly appreciate it. Until the next time.
Next time, people.